Hello and welcome to Venture Build Gaming. My name is Ryan, and in this video I'm going to show you how I built this small handcart, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Come over to the workbench and we'll check it out. Start with prepping the material. I'm taking this coffee stir sticks and using my metal punch to draw in the wood grain into it. It's not that hard. You just gotta push and just treat it like you do the styrofoam. There you go, you can see the exaggerated grain. And make up a couple of them. Now that the wood grain's in, I'm going to just use my knife to rough up the edges. Give it a raw lumber look. Gives a little more character. Gives it some age. There, now you can see what it looks like when there's a couple of them together. Okay, now that we've marked them up, made them ready, and take off the ends of each of them, the snips, so we can lay them out and measure how long we want it. This is a small hand cart, so I'm going to keep it a little smaller. If you want to make it bigger, go bigger. It's personal preference. I have a larger cart that I made a number of years back. I just don't have a hand cart this size, so marking it at 2.5 inches. I'm going to just snip them. If you don't have the snips, use scissors. Scissors would do too. I'm going to clean up the ends, kind of rough them up a little again. Mostly the corners. And here's a closer view of what I just did to the ends of the planks. Okay, line up the one end and use the square toothpicks that I found at one of the dollar stores. Marking it out and just eyeballing it. I'm not using any measurement per se. So now that your piece is ready, I threw down a piece of wax paper to help keep the glue off my work table. I'm trying to keep it somewhat clean. I know it's a work table, but using Eileen's tacky glue, I find it forms a really good bond. It takes a little bit to dry, so it will take my time, and I'm struggling to make sure that it's lined up using a straight piece left over. Gotta get a little extra on there. Okay, now that the planks are glued together, we're just going to set them off the side, and we're going to start working on the wheels. I'm using the protractor to draw out the circles. Use anything that's round, bottle cap, it'll work just fine. Just cut out, I traced out 3, only cutting out 2. I traced out the third one as a spare if I somehow messed up on one of these. I didn't, so didn't have to use it, which is nice. Sometimes it's worth that extra step. Just cutting a rough circle. I do not have a Proxon, a hot wire cutter, so I use what I got. I'm mostly using the emery board to help shape it. That's the easiest I find once I get it close. Just keep going over until you're happy with it. Get it close. Okay, now that they're cut out and shaped the way you want, I've drawn in the planks, and now I'm drawing the wood grain into the top, very much like my doors I did in my last video. Just take your time. And like that, with the magic of editing and off camera, I have 2 wheels ready to go. So I'm just using a small wooden dowel that I found. Can't remember where I found it. It was one of the dollar stores a number of years back. But a barbecue skewer worked just as well. Just eyeballing it. I'm not using measurements. I find it's faster and easier sometimes just to eyeball things. Okay, now we're going to assemble this. Using just the Eileen's tacky glue. Pretty much I'm using that glue the whole project. A little bit on the wheels, keep them on there. I'll be adding more. Using some Jenga blocks that I had just sitting in a bag, help support it. Full whack glue, just covering it. This is the bottom of the cart. I'm not going to give as much detail to it, so it doesn't have to be as pretty. Unless you're flipping the cart over and it's going to be upside down most of the time, well then give it a little more love. Gluing the tires to the side because this is a terrain piece, not an actual cart. Okay, as the cart dries, we're going to carve up the handles for the cart. I'm using some skewers I picked up from the Dollarama. Just taking my time carving down the handle. I am carving toward myself. If you don't have that much confidence with your knife skills, carve away. I've cut myself numerous times, as my wife can attest. She's even bought me special knife guards for my thumb, which I'm not wearing there. There it is. After finishing carving, I'm using an emery board to take down any rough spots, shape it a little more. You can find an emery boards in most beauty sections at most department stores. This pack I found at the Dollarama. Alright, moving on. Now attaching the handles. So I left them, the handles on as I was carving them because it's just easier to work with a larger piece of skewer. I laid it out on the bottom of the cart and now I'm choosing the size I did. If you want, you don't have to put as much detail as I'm choosing to put them back a little farther, so I'm going to have to carve out that one bottom plank. If you don't want to do that, don't. Just cut it off after the plank and glue it on. It'll look just as good and it'll work just as fine. This is a small, tedious work, but I found that that's what I wanted to do with this one. Get a little more strength actually in the final build too. So take your time. Better do 1,000 cuts and do it right than do 100 cuts and cut yourself. Okay, attaching them using just the tacky glue. If you want, you could have used a hot glue gun. It would have been just as effective and quicker. I had to definitely play with the way these were sitting quite a bit just because of how the glue took a while to set up. And the boards that I glued earlier bent a little as they were drying, I believe. So I'm using just a paint brush with a bit of water on it to help smooth the glue down into the recesses. Good old Mod Podge with the black acrylic paint mixed in to strengthen the wheels and protect them. So before moving on to the brown, I just quickly threw on some just black paint onto the rest of the model. I could have Mod Podged it, I just chose not to. Using burnt umber to give it the base coat of brown. Kind of painting on relatively thick, not too much globbed on there, but get it everywhere, cover the whole model. Using cinnamon brown next. Next layer, I'm letting each stage of the painting dry first before I move on. Just lightly covering the whole surface again with cinnamon brown, trying to keep it light. Trying to bring out that character, that wood grain we drew in earlier. going too heavy, just enough to show that brown. And the sides. Get all the sides of the wheels. You want to make sure. If you really want, you can go into dirtying and all that, but it's a cart in itself to make it look weathered and aged. Bottom, as you can see, just slapping it on the bottom. Not as much care for there. Golden brown next is the color. This isn't a dry brush per se. I'm no expert on painting. My skill grows every time I paint, and the key is just to paint. I'm just lightly covering the whole model, just very lightly. Once the top's done, move on to the sides. As I was painting this, I added a little more around the edge of the wheels, just to give that extra, almost like a little bit of mud on it, wear and tear. Okay, the final coat of paint is the dry brush. I'm using the gray to age the cart. You look at old buildings, fences, especially on the side of the highway you're traveling, you'll see that they have that weathered gray look. I just wanted to give that age to this cart, saying it's been used, but it's falling on disrepair. Getting all sides. And there you have it. Completed cart, painted, ready for your adventures. One more step. So last step I've chosen to do is a wash. This is a homemade wash I've made. I normally would just spray it right onto the model, but I wanted to see if I needed to do multiple layers, so I put it in my paint tray and just coated the model completely. Get it everywhere. There you have it. Your cart is ready for your adventures. Or use it on your wargaming table. Whatever works best for you. I enjoyed making this video. I hope you have as well. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you on our next adventure.